All right, to I guess start off, I'm currently an undergraduate student of cybersecurity, so I read papers and stuff like this. So this was on my radar, um, and to explain what it is a paper that is published by the NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's titled "A Security Perspective on the Web3 Paradigm." So this came out just the other day. It's currently, as of recording, it's February 27th, 2025. This came out 2 days ago on the 25th. Um, I guess the draft came out like last year, but the final version of this came out today. So, or not today, the other day. Anyway, so this paper basically talks about Web3 and as a proposed vision for the future of the internet. Now, first of all, before I go any further, why should you care about this paper? Or why should anyone care about this paper? Um, and it's because it's the NIST. So the NIST, you can see this is an official website of the United States government. The NIST is a federal agency or federal department. Um, they do see computer security resource center. Like they have um, it's the federal government. U.S. they're under the U.S. Department of Commerce. That's what it is. Um, so there's like a little bit of about the NAST, again, an official website of the U.S. government. Um, I'm not going to read all this, but you can go check this out. I'll put the links in the description. And Veritasium also has a YouTube video where he talks about the NEST. I'm not going to show any of this, but highly recommend you go watch this video if you want to just know more about what this department does for the U.S. government. But they are a pretty critical department in my mind. And they also have a lot of, because they do standard things, they standardize things. They also do technology. So it's the National Institute of Standards and Technology. So they do, well, to put it point blank, the NIST is the whole reason AES encryption exists. Or not, I guess not the whole reason, but they are the ones that standardized it, and it's why we use AES encryption today. And it's why they are the reason why we are going to be using some post-quantum encryption in the future, and they're the reason, as Veritasium explains in this video, it's why you have peanut butter on the shelf at the store with the label on the back and everything that tells you the ingredients and all the stuff. Yeah, so this paper, just to go a little bit deeper, the whole idea of Web3 is that users would own and manage their personal data. That's the huge part about it. They want to decentralize it and whatnot. So the idea is that digital tokens would be used to represent assets. So all that basically means is they're going to put your data on a blockchain or like of some sort. And web native currencies would be used for payments. So there's no real money transactions. It's only cryptocurrency transactions on Web3. Because the whole Web3 is blockchain. The whole idea of it is like the Web3 is a blockchain, I guess. It's hard to, I don't even understand it fully. But I don't know. Anyway, I guess I do, but I don't. Because the thing is, I don't know how this is going to be implemented yet. I don't think anybody really knows how this is going to completely look in the future. Because this is supposed to be the future of the internet, not its current state. So Web3 exists right now. There is a version of Web3 that exists right now, but it's a very primitive version of what Web3 actually can be. So all in my just a small tangent, all Web3 basically is right now, for in very basic terms, is you get crypto wallets and NFTs, and you can like store them in wallets, and you blockchain like that stuff. It's just the basic blockchain stuff with like the exchanges and whatnot. But um the idea of Web3 is that it basically becomes the standard of the internet, I guess. And it becomes the internet. So, um, all right, this just to complete the abstract. This document provides a high-level technical overview of Web3 and discusses proposed technologies to implement it. So that's the thing. This is the National Institute of Standards and Technology. They're talking about the technologies to implement Web3. So that's why this paper is pretty crazy. So let's just, I guess, get into the meat and potatoes. So security perspective on the Web3 paradigm. This is just basic stuff. This goes over the abstract again, of course, like a paper does. Well, yeah, it says this publication is designed for readers with little to no knowledge of Web3 technology who wish to understand how it works at a high level. It is not intended to be a technical guide. So obviously, this is not the standard itself. This is just painting a picture of the Web3. This is not a perfect description. It's just painting a picture. So there's yeah. So, all right. Why is it called Web3? That's the first thing, I guess, to basically go over. As like, just follow the paper. Web 1.0 was the read-only web. It was just most websites were hosted by large organizations, government agencies, internet service providers, tech-savvy users who were allotted a small portion of the web storage. So that was Web 1.0. In short. Web 2.0, which is the current web, we're in the like latter half of the end stage of Web 2.0, where we're actually in a way on Web 3.0, but Web 3.0 is just an expansion of Web 2.0. So, but anyway, to explain what Web 2.0 is, as the internet grew in the early to mid 2000s, so too did the number of the use cases for it. Buzzword there, use cases, buzzword. So web servers continued to gain features and integrate more technologies such as databases, the user interface of the internet, the web browser, blah, blah, blah. Gain new features. The new features was basically user interaction. That was the whole thing. User interaction. So, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, active web users saw their web presence migrate through several genres over the lifespan of Web 2. So that was the thing. You actually, here you go. Chatting, messaging, social media, all the email, all those things came with Web 2.0. So I don't know. Anyway, obviously, if you are a millennial or older, you kind of know some of this already. Or you might anyway. Like this might be pretty obvious, like you might have actually seen this, but I was pretty young when this happened, so I didn't fully understand that it was different than the Web 1.0, which was just like, the read-only web. And anyway, so that was Web 2.0. So Web 3.0, which is different from Web 3, they make the distinction here, the semantic web. It says it's an effort to make the internet more machine readable by adding additional metadata such as tags and identifiers, blah, 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 whatever. So that's all pretty much Web 3.0 is. So anyway, Web 3 is different though. That is this. All right, here you go. The future of the web. The internet is constantly under development and its direction is in flux. New technologies may be adopted wholesale, integrated into architecture, or rejected entirely based on a variety of factors, including business and consumer needs. There's no guarantee that any technology discussed here will be widely adopted, and the paper refrains from giving opinions on whether these technologies should be used, adopted, or ignored. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Oh, what? No, stop. What are you doing? AI. I fucking hate AI. Okay. Alright. Vision of Web3. Users own their own data, and they're responsible for their data, and data security and data privacy. So, I don't know how are they just going to be completely responsible for all their data when we can't trust users. So I don't know. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I mean, all this basically means is you're supposed to remember your passwords, guys. Write down your passwords. You're supposed to remember them. Decentralized and distributed systems run applications. So that's the thing. Decentralized and distributed systems are used, and users can host and run applications. So, to me, this says any application, meaning pretty much anything on the internet, like any website you go to, like YouTube, Netflix, or even games you play, Call of Duty, I don't know, FIFA, 2K, technically. So applications and organizations request data directly from users, which they have to do that, whether you're a game company or a web company or whatever, they have to just do that. Users comply with applications and organizations with actual data, or supplies, not I said comply, supply applications and organizations with actual data of verifiable credentials, blah, 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 of their data, and they choose to deny applications. Oh my gosh, I can't even, yeah, you read it. So, yeah, they can offer incentives, whatever. Data can be tokenized and transferred directly between users. And then application, execution, and transaction fees are paid for with web native currencies. So, what all this basically says to me is that you can do stuff over Web3, and these organizations can get they can request data over the Web3, and you have control over it. They just request it from you. Instead of, because right now the idea is when you sign up for all these companies, well, they store your data and they store it on their servers. So the idea is that you're giving your information to 100 different companies, but in this concept, 100 different companies will request your data from one source. So instead of there being 100 different copies of your data, you'll have one copy of your data that 100 different parties, companies like Netflix, I don't know, that's just, when you sign up for these things, they can just access your data instead of storing their own version of it. And they don't need, and that gives you full control over it because they only need a limited amount of data. So you know exactly what you're giving them. It's not just oh, we're going to collect your data. Because, see, the thing is when you, they collect more data than just, your personal data. They collect your, alright, I'm just going to use Netflix as an example. I'm 100% sure. I don't know this for a fact. I haven't, searched this up, but I can almost guarantee that they collect watch time data, or they have to. They have to collect watch time data so that they know how much users are watching these shows. So I know for a fact, I've never even Googled that, but I know for a fact they are collecting watch time data on these shows, and they are selling that data. So, see, the thing is, they might still be able to do stuff like that, but I don't know. Maybe not. It just kind of depends on how this data is like. I don't know. That's neither here nor there. So let's just continue on. So this is just more like Web3 characteristics. Here you go. So web data ownership. Web seeks to have users own their own data and enable portability of data, transfer of data ownership. Users will need to securely store their data and manage requests for their data. So yeah, sorry, I was scrolling too fast. Web3 users can either provide information directly or utilize verifiable credentials to prove information without providing the underlying data. Uh, so again, just more control over your data with this whole idea of the Web3. Um, And look at this. So this is the incentives they were talking about. Since users may be reluctant to give data away, organizations that require users' data may provide additional incentives such as digital assets, tokens, or cryptocurrency, or expanded application capabilities. So yeah, they can just give you stuff for more data. So for instance, watch time. Okay, let me go back to that concept or that analogy or that example, whatever you want to call it. Your watch time, your Netflix watch time, right? If they want to collect that data and whatnot, they might have to give you cryptocurrency in order to collect that data on you. I don't know. Maybe that's my interpretation of this. So yeah, and obviously because this is all blockchain, users may also choose and be incentivized to maintain the integrity of the networks, verify transactions, and execute applications. So again, any application pretty much, not just like you're verifying transactions, yeah, with like cryptocurrencies and whatnot, but also executing applications. Anyway, uh, So and all so to they may be incentivized to maintain the integrity of the networks. All that basically means is you're mining for the Web3 blockchain. You're just mining for that blockchain. So there has to be some form of a Web3 digital like cryptocurrency that if when you support the Web3 network, um, you get a Web3 cryptocurrency of some kind. I don't know what it's going to be called, or they might just use like Bitcoin or something. I don't know. Or they might use the U.S. digital currency. I don't know. Because this is the United States doing it, this is the United States we're talking about. I don't know. It might be. And that's the thing. Anyway, there's multiple questions to be answered. Uh, so yeah, Web3 is envisioned to use web native currencies, cryptocurrencies, as the basis for purchases, money exchange between users, and the costs for executing distributed applications. Again, you're watching your Netflix at home. That's you're using an application. You're playing a game at home. You are using an application. I mean, can it? I don't know. So Web3 data. Let's continue. It's a lot to unpack. Web3. This is not a new concept. Web3, like this has been out for a while, but this paper is brand new. And this is the NIST we're talking about. This is not just like anyone talking about this paper. And this was released 2 days ago. So yeah, this just kind of gives you the current model versus the Web3 model. It basically just goes over that same stuff again. I read this the other day, and I'm reading it again now as I go through it again. but yeah, this if you want to read this, the paper's public. You can go. I'll put the link in the description. It's on the government website. Um, it's very easy to search up. So yeah, okay. Like Web 1 and Web 2, Web 3 is not a single technology. um, yeah, all right. So this is a huge part of this paper too. They express this a lot. Digital identities. So because like blockchains are inherently well, and the second thing is blockchains. Because they are inherently public, you can see you can't like necessarily see all of the information that's going on, but you can see the like wallet it like all right, when a cryptocurrency change happens, you can see the wallet it came out of and the wallet it went into. You can see the transaction details. You can't necessarily see all of the details of the parties, but if they have a way of verifying your identity and they create a digital identity for you and they have a way to verify that it is in fact you who has control over this particular wallet on a blockchain or something, well then that's your digital identity. So yeah, they want to digital identities, blockchains, tokens, smart contracts, all this stuff is like pretty standard. All this is like already happening with cryptocurrency. It's just they want to adopt it. From my perspective, reading all this, they want to adopt it to the entire internet. That's what they want to do. Now, all right, before I go any further, I don't think this is happening tomorrow. This is not happening tomorrow, obviously. Like, this is not, and when this does happen, it's not like it's going to completely change everything about the internet. Oh, it's not like it's like, oh, a brand new fucking thing. But it will change some fundamental things about the internet. Like this will come with changes. But it's not going to look like completely different either. But with that said, I'm sure we're going to be surprised by some of the things that come out of Web3 when it becomes like more adopted, and because the form of Web3 is going to change because Web3 is like combines a bunch of different technology and whatnot. It is going to change form, and it's just going to change. So, all right, existing internet technologies. It's going to use TCP/IP, of course, remote procedure call, and TLS. Like that's none of that's changing. Obviously the internet back end, I get like that. The back end is not going to completely change, but because like you're still going to have your. Oh wait. Hold on. Am I reading that correct? Hold on. Let me read that again. Utilizes existing. Yeah, Web3 utilizes existing technologies that make up much of the current web, such as TCP/IP, TLS, all that stuff. It's use servers, databases, web pages, blah blah blah. Because Web3 is just an extension of the current internet. It's not like it's a brand new internet. It's just an extension of that's all any of this is. It's just updating the internet. You get updates to everything. They updated USB from the box when it was USB A or something or B, I don't know, to USB C now. Like they're updating. So the internet, it's updating. There's new technology. So like blockchain systems and cryptocurrency systems, Web3 leverages well-known technologies such as public key cryptography, digital signatures, blah, 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 hash algorithms. So, okay, and this is a distinction. It is different. Web3 is not just like another, it will be blockchain. It's heavily like blockchain, that's the like fundamental technology of it, I guess. But it is not just another like cryptocurrency. Like It's way more than that, because the idea is like you store your data on I don't know, I don't even know, like a wallet of some kind, or you store your data on a blockchain and you can verify that you own that data with a wallet. And I don't know, like it's kind of confusing, but it's also not, in a way. It's confusing. um, and some of you might be listening and be like, "No, it's not confusing at all," but it is. Uh, you're just smart. Um, Not all of us are that intelligent. So, okay, there's another thing too. Mobile devices, highly personal devices, blah blah blah. They want to use mobile devices to create these digital identities. Yeah, mobile devices. They will be the ideal portal into Web3 technologies. Um, mhm. Yeah, new digital credentials are emerging that can support both greater individual control over identity attributes and more direct validation with issuing sources. Yeah, so that's the thing. Web3, the whole, like, I keep saying that, the whole idea. Um, Web3, it will help facilitate an identity hub that can incorporate government issued identities. So your true identity, a decentralized identity, and other form of just digital identities, just whatever else. But it's going to be a hub of all those things. So it's going to be it. Web3 is the link between a decentralized identity that is public. That decentralized identity is public. So okay, if applications that you use are going to be on the blockchain, they can see the applications you use and the websites you go to. It's all public. Right? Am I reading that correctly? Am I interpreting that correctly? I don't know. See, so many questions. Yeah, so see, okay, here you go. Yeah. A person could issue themselves a DID to act as a unique identifier to sign up for, log into, and use a Web3 social networking service. So, yeah, again, like even just social media is going to change. Um, Now, obviously, the big players in social media now are just going to adopt. That's metaverse is Web3 apparently. That's people were like laughing at metaverse, but that's kind of the idea of metaverse, is that it's a Web3 like hub for someone to, they're just really early to the game, cuz Mark Zuckerberg is reading these papers and he's like, "Oh, we got to have something now." But it's not going to be, people are just laughing at it now cuz they see the metaverse for like the VR stuff and they're like, "Oh, that's stupid." Cuz it is. It's really dumb. But also the Web3 aspect of it is kind of neat. Like, if it didn't just have the dumb, like, VR game aspect to it, like, if it were actually real, you know what I'm saying? Like, because this is real. Like, We're talking about real life here. We're not talking about a VR world. We're talking about the real life world. This is the link. If metaverse is supposed to be a Web3 hub linking your digital identity to your real world identity, dude, like, this should be as serious as we take banks or the stock market or all that stuff. This is the internet we're talking. Like, this is our identities we're talking about. Like, this isn't just you know, it's synonymous. I mean, this is our crypto wallets we're talking about, because if, going back in the paper, if all transactions in Web3 are supposed to be cryptocurrency, i.e., if this is the future of the internet, all internet transactions, money transactions, are going to be cryptocurrency transactions. Well, then our crypto wallets, that's our money. So this is, if the metaverse is supposed to be a Web3 hub, well, it's supposed to include a crypto wallet, right? Yeah, you know what? I'm actually going to Google that right now. Does metaverse have a crypto wallet? Or, I don't know. Yes, crypto wallet is required to access the metaverse. Yes. So I don't know if metaverse technically itself has a crypto wallet, but you apparently at least need a crypto wallet to access it. So yeah. Anyway. Yeah, so this is metaverse looks really dumb. So Mark Zuckerberg is just really early to the game, because this, again, like I made the point earlier, this is not happening tomorrow. This is not happening next week. It's not happening a year from now. This is at least going to be the next 5 to 10 years out, if not 15 to 20 years out. Like, that we might, I'm predicting maybe sometime in 2030 something, Web3 will be adopted more. And the thing is, once it happens, it's going to be almost overnight, because it's once Google makes their version of a Web3 hub, which I don't know, they might already have. I don't know. I haven't researched that. But once they do it, and then like Amazon does it, and then Tesla does it, and then Nvidia does it or something. I don't know. You know, once all these companies make their own version, or once one of these tech giants makes their own version of a Web3 hub that is truly good, and it is like, it works well, and it'll change the game. Or once like, all right, it was talking about social media. Or, you know, I'm just gonna, yeah, it's gonna change the game, and every other company is gonna follow suit. That was where I was leading. That they're gonna follow suit, and it's gonna happen almost overnight. But it's gonna take a while for it to happen, quote unquote, overnight. So it's not happening overnight. It's a slow adoption, it's gonna look like it happened overnight, but it really didn't. You're seeing it now, like. I'm making this video now for a reason. We're seeing it now. Like this is the NIST we're talking about. They created the like, they have a cybersecurity framework that pretty much all of the departments of the U.S. federal government use. Like the CISA, which is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, under the Department of Homeland Defense of the United States of America. They reference a lot of the NIST standards for like cybersecurity things. So, and NIST, yeah, I mean, it is the standardizing department of the United States of America. So, and that's kind of what we're known for, is our standards and our regulations on things. So that's kind of our bread and butter in a way. And this is just the next version of that. So this is what the federal government is talking about. So that's why this is important. If you're not following along, or if you don't, I don't know. That's why I believe this is important. That's why I'm making this video today and not a year from now or something. You know, And that's why it's raw. I'm gonna post this unedited because, yeah, I'm just going through this paper. And this is not. I'm not like reporting on this as if like I'm breaking news, right? I'm not like don't call me crazy now, you know. But this is like, yeah, this paper was just published, so I believe this information is important to know. It's important to be aware of this stuff because this is likely to come. Like I said, maybe it might take 5 years, might take 10 years, might take 15 or 20 years. I'm predicting sometime in the 2030s, might be the 2040s before this really takes off in the way that I'm kind of describing. In the way that not that I'm kind of describing, in the way that I'm interpreting from the description of this paper. But anyway, let's continue. So yeah, real quick. So decentralized systems. So all right, the way blockchains, real quick, just to give you an idea of what blockchains is. If you don't know how a blockchain works, this is the basic idea of it. This is the bread and butter here. So all right, you have a no, I don't want to highlight. I want a pen. Is there a pen? Can I do a pen of some kind? No, I don't think I can. All right, you know what? Paint. Here you go. All right. So how a blockchain works? Okay, the currency doesn't fucking exist. Currency itself is not real. Okay, your U.S. dollar, it doesn't actually exist, right? It's not. It only exists with the value that we give it. Okay. Now it used to be that the value was equivalent to a piece of gold sitting in a bank somewhere, but nowadays your dollar is equivalent to the confidence of the United States of America. So the confidence of cryptocurrency is the security of it. And the security of it is it's on lockdown. It's locked down. Like, all right. So, and what makes it decentralized is this. Okay, and this is why they call it a blockchain. All right. So you had a block, right? All right. A block is just it's just information, right? You have a hash, like a hash number with it, basically, and it does the whole idea is proof of work, and so it's proof that a computer computed something. A calculation that was really hard to compute. It's like 1 in a billion calculation, and the computer happened to find it. And it's like if someone wins the lottery and they show you the proof that they won the lottery, but they don't necessarily show you the money, or they don't necessarily give you all the information, but they just prove that they won the lottery. You know, is that not like? Yeah, that's the proof. It's proof that CPU did a calculation, and it did. It's when you like read the paper that's. What's his name? Satoshi Nakamoto? What? I don't fucking know his name. Anyway, when you read his paper, it's pretty interesting how the blockchain works. But anyway, so you get a hash, and you get like a hash, a root hash that has like all the transactions. So it's called a Merkle hash because it takes like multiple hashes and it puts them together into one. So you get like transaction 1, transaction 2, transaction 3. And I'm basically just modeling, I'm drawing basically what he drew in the, or what they, in that original paper. But yeah, this goes into a block, and this is a block. And for every block mined, this is how Bitcoins are generated. For every block mined, you get a set number of Bitcoin. It started off with 50. So every 50, or you get 50 Bitcoin for every block mined. Well, the block doesn't technically have to have transactions in it. So this can you just need a hash, you need some data in it, and you just need the proof of work that this block was mined. And this, it also includes like a timestamp. So it's anyway, I know I'm just drawing random symbols, but includes a timestamp of like when you did the calculation. So and then that's the block mined, and the security of it is built on the next block after it. So when you prove that you did another calculation that was like winning another lottery, because this calculation, how it basically works is you need to do some math that finds a number that has like a ton of zeros. It has like, so your output is going to have like a string of numbers in the, and then it's going to have like 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, a ton of zeros. And that's the special like output when you like, that's what you're looking for. That's what these computers are looking for. But normally, this is 1 out of a billion right here when you get all these zeros, and the amount of zeros that you're looking for is changing with like every block or something. I don't know all the, anyway. I'm not here to tell you exactly all the details of it, but what I'm just trying to give you a basic idea. So when this block is mined, it can be faked, right? All right, theoretically, this first block could be faked, but this is where the decentralized part comes on it, because this blockchain, as we're building these blocks, each one has transactions in it of people giving money. Well, all right, if I wanted to fake like someone giving me money, like some cryptocurrency, and first of all, the only cryptocurrency that can exist are basically all the ones that were mined from this proof of work. So if the cryptocurrency does not exist on the blockchain, it doesn't exist. So this proof of work, basically, or I've heard this someone say this. The ledger, this chain of blocks proving like all this work, this CPU power, because each one of these is like winning the lottery, and when you get like a bunch of these blocks lined up, in order to go back and change this one, you would have to also then change this one and this one and this one and this one and all that follow it. You don't necessarily have to change all the ones before it, but if you wanted to forge a block, you would have to forge that block. First of all, you'd have to win the lottery, basically, forge the block, forge the transactions, and then you have to have that verified by everybody, and the Bitcoin can't just like come out of thin air. It has to come from a wallet of some kind. The only Bitcoin that comes out of thin air is the Bitcoin, the 50 that you mined that got just from winning the lottery. So that's how new Bitcoin are generated, right? Or new just cryptocurrency in general are generated. That's the only new one that comes out of thin air. And it doesn't necessarily come out of thin air. It's just anyway, it does. It does just kind of come out of thin air. But it is proven that it came out of thin air on the ledger, and it is tracked on the ledger, and it is put into a wallet on the ledger, and it is put on the blockchain, and it is proven. So for someone to, in order to fake that, they would have to win the lottery, forge it, win the lottery again and again and again and again, and to forge all the blocks after it. So that's how, when you get a brand new block, like this newest block that just came out, that like someone mined apparently, first of all, you can verify that this is a legit block, right? And you can verify that all of the transactions in that block are legit, because you yourself, and this is where the decentralized part comes in, you yourself have a copy of all of these blocks, right? You have a copy, they have a copy, everybody has a copy of like all these blocks. There's videos explaining this, by the way, much better than how I'm explaining it here. This is a fucking scribbles. So, you know what, let me just, anyway, that's the essentials of like blockchain though. That's how it kind of works. So, So, all right, blockchains allow for the system to be decentralized. Well, if you have some public information, right, on the blockchain, right, you have this blockchain of like all this public information, and you verified in this block, you verified a transaction that said, like, yep, that's good, and here's my signature, like, and it's in that block, and then some other blocks get stacked on top of that, whatever, as time passes. Like for Bitcoin, it's every 10 minutes a block is stacked on top. For most, it's like every minute a new block is stacked on top. So, and everybody, once like, the idea is that once a new block is stacked on top of it, it's basically impossible to go back to. The whole idea of it is that the work it would take to like forge stuff and to go back and change stuff, like once new blocks have been established on top, in order to go back, change something, and then to fix all the blocks on top of that to like forge a new fake ledger, you would have to do like, yeah, again, win the lottery of all this stuff. So if you can just, it's just way exponentially easier to just use this system as normal than it is to try to beat the system. It's just exponentially because of the CPU and the CPU power and the time required to do it. It's just exponentially difficult to do that, to forge it. So that's the security of it. So the whole idea is that if the CPU power of true good nodes that are like building these blocks and mining these blocks true and like validating these blocks as true, if the CPU power going into that is greater than the CPU power going into forging it, well then the correct blockchain is going to win. And if the standard is that you default to the longest chain, well then the longest chain is always going to be the right chain, because the most work is being put into the right chain. So it's like if you have 10 man hours built or like being put into working on something, and you have 5 man hours being worked on something else, well the 10 man hours worked on the one thing is going to beat the other one. It's a race of who can. It's like the space race. Well, the idea was that the United States was able to more efficiently work, and they were able to outpace Russia, basically. So that's the whole idea, is that they were able to outwork Russia. That's the whole idea of blockchain, is that the good miners and the good blockchain, because the blockchain is stored by everybody. That's the decentralized nature of it, is everybody has a copy of this. Well, I say everybody. All the miners have a copy of this. And this copy is public, and you can go see this copy, and you yourself can go verify it. So even if you don't necessarily have a copy stored for yourself, you can go see a copy of it that is stored and validated by the anyway, you get my point. So that's the whole security of cryptocurrency. And so yeah, just as long as the CPU power going into legit, it's just not be attacking the system. As long as the majority hold is not attacking the system, you're fine. So, because the majority CPU power is going to be able to build the largest block, and if the default again is defaulting to the largest block, then yeah. So that's the fundamental idea of like the security of blockchain and the decentralized nature of it, is because it is public and everybody has a copy of it. And if you give me one copy that is a fraudulent copy that will be short because it takes more work. It will be a shorter blockchain than the blockchain given to me by a legit node. Because that legit nodes might have one extra block on it, or it won't have any like disputed. Or, yeah, well, the thing is with cryptocurrency, you can't like really dispute stuff. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Yeah, that's I don't know if I'm explaining it well. Neither here nor there. So. Yeah, let's just continue. uh, yeah, so today, many users give up certain rights to the data they generate with applications and platforms. Again, the data they generate. So it's not necessarily your personal information that you have, it's just the data you generate. So, again, your watch time for Netflix, for example. Um, The data users generate are a valuable resource to each application in the organizations that run the applications, blah, blah, blah. The sale of user information or even access to user information via anonymized data is often done without the user's knowledge and does not directly benefit the user. Web3 proposes that rather than organizations owning and storing the user data, users themselves should own and store their own data and provide organizations access to portions of that data when necessary. So that's the thing. If you're requiring that users store their own data, well, not every user is going to store their own data, so you're gonna have to, I don't know, they're gonna have to put this in the cloud somehow, for this to be truly like, I don't know, feasible, I guess is what I'm saying. With this change, users would know exactly when an organization needed their data and blah blah blah, whatever. So. Allow users to allow or deny an organization access to those data. So instead of like you signing those terms of service agreements that say, oh, we're going to collect your data and we're going to store it on our servers and blah, 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 it's going to say, hey, we're going to request access from your data here. Yeah, blah, blah, you get my point. Yeah, so decentralized applications would take the form of smart contracts and would be hosted and run on the blockchain. Yeah, users of these decentralized applications could publish art, documents, and other application-specific data by posting either the actual data or a cryptographic hash representation of the data to a blockchain or smart contract. So what that tells me is, okay, for instance, publish art. What's to stop you from putting music on this blockchain, this application blockchain, and if people want to listen to your music, they just request access to it. And when they request access to it, you can allow access for a fee. So instead of going through like music distribution and whatnot, you can just like theoretically put your song or an album on one of these decentralized applications, like one of these blockchains. Now, that is the idea that this is the distribution. And then you can just charge crypto for access to it. So they're basically, instead of Apple Music or Spotify or whatever of those, it would be that like Spotify, but instead of Spotify in its current form, it would be Spotify and you're accessing music on the blockchain instead of how it currently is. Because how it currently is you basically rent it. You like rent access to it. And yeah, I don't know. It's weird how like Spotify and Apple Music and all those work, those streaming platforms. Um, but this would be different, or this could lead to different things. So yeah. Anyway. So okay, and then it makes an important distinction here. PII, personally identifiable information. Um, yeah, they would not. This is not something many users would want on a blockchain. So like again, your music that you want to put out to the world, you want your music to be public, duh, or you want your art to be public. So you want your graphic art, you want your whatever it is, your video, your YouTube video, instead of your YouTube would be, instead of a YouTube video being stored on a server, your YouTube video would be stored on a blockchain. And then users would just access your YouTube video on the blockchain instead of actually accessing the server in which the YouTube video is stored on. Because when they access the server, yeah, it's just a more secure way of like doing this stuff, and a more like, I don't even know. I don't know how to describe it. So users would instead have some form of data storage hub where they stored their data off of a blockchain and have verifiable credentials issued. So that's for their PII. So yeah, that's the stuff that will be stored on like centralized servers essentially. So like on your personal computer. Obviously you might have your own. Now you shouldn't just have like a open text document with your like passwords and stuff on your personal computer. But also if you do, I mean, it's not like the worst thing in the world. Granted you don't get hacked, but most people aren't getting hacked. Most, I think anyway. Well, yeah, I don't know. It's a big claim to make, but also I don't really care. So yeah, so it's going to be a combination. So the shift from centralized to decentralized would affect both users and organizations. For organizations, it would mean utilizing platforms that they do not fully control, and they may not be sure of the reliability of those platforms. So again, like YouTube, they may not fully want their platform to. They may not see a competitor to YouTube might come out and say, YouTube themselves might say, oh, well, we don't want YouTube videos to be on a blockchain. We want them to be stored on our servers. But then a competitor might come out and say, why not have like Rumble is a competitor to YouTube now, a very bad competitor at that, but it is technically a competitor to YouTube right now. Another one might emerge that uses this blockchain, and all the videos on that platform are stored on a blockchain, and users just request access to those. And some videos might be free. Some videos you might have to pay a little bit of crypto to access the video. It would just depend. And if that were the case, why not make how they have subscriptions, now to on like Twitch or YouTube. You can subscribe to a YouTube channel, or like join. When you pay the like $5 monthly fee or whatever. Again, why not? Like a user had like this other platform. It operates off the blockchain. All the information is stored on the blockchain. You have a monthly subscription where they get access to other videos or other media. It's like you just have like different. Some stuff will be free access. Some stuff will be behind a crypto paywall. But ultimately, if it's public information, it will be stored on a blockchain. And if it's not public information, or if you don't want it to be public, like your personal identifiable information, it'll be stored on a server or somewhere. But a more secure. It's not. Yeah, it's not going to be public, because blockchains are inherently public. That's what makes them decentralized, is that they are public, and you can see, again, you can't necessarily see all the information of the transaction and everything, but you can see the basic information of all transactions. That's the whole idea of blockchains. But anyway, so it's full transparency. Everyone has their own copy, and the copies are constantly being checked and verified and updated between each other. So, yeah. Neither here nor there. Yeah. So, and again, this, because organizations might not like this, it means relinquishing much of the data ownership that they privately hold. So again, when you like upload a video to YouTube, I think technically you still own that video and everything, but they have like part ownership of it because they have to store it on their server, right? The YouTube servers. So I don't know exactly how it's worded in the like terms of service or anything, but anyway, so if it's not being stored on their server though, it's being stored on a blockchain instead, which they would have a server that stores the blockchain, but they can't charge you for storing the blockchain, you know, or they can't. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Many organizations may see these concerns as disadvantageous to their business. But yeah, like YouTube, they wouldn't have just full control over all those YouTube videos anymore. If YouTube were to switch to something like this, they would have to relinquish all those YouTube videos and put them on the blockchain, and then the blockchain would have all of the control over the data, which the blockchain is public, which means everybody has control over the data pretty much. Not full control over it. Again, you don't have full whatever, but they have full transparency of the data. Let me put it that way. Anyway, so they may be reluctant to migrate to a Web3 application. However, there may be some beneficial trade-offs. Much, if not all, of the user data could be migrated away from organizations and into the hands of the users themselves, which would reduce the burden that organizations face with securing private user data. So, and again, this whole idea of Web3 is, instead of 100 different companies storing your data, you store your data and you give access to 100 different companies. And that, so when 100 different companies are cyber attacked, well, they're not storing your data. So when they are cyber attacked, they don't technically have your data. They just happen to have access to your data. So unless a cyber attack gets access to the access that they have to your data, it's impossible for the cyber attack to actually leak your data. For your data to be exposed in that cyber attack, because the organization was simply getting access to it. I know let's continue. I know I'm being confusing, but I'm trying to be clear. Because I don't know. I don't fully understand it, but I feel like I understand it enough to halfway explain it. So organizations could also, due to the reduced amount of data held, organizations would be less of a target for malicious attackers who seek to steal data. Again, they're not storing your data, they're just getting access to it, so they're not storing quite as much data. So a lot of these organizations will be happy, because they'll be like, wow, we don't need so many fucking servers. Because we had all this data, and now we don't need to store all that data. We can just have it on the blockchain and then just get access to it from the blockchain. And miners will store the data. Anyone who is contributing to and so these organizations, they don't have to store it, so they don't necessarily have to mine for that blockchain that stores that data. All the miners who are mining for that's going to be like other companies. So a company that doesn't need to store the data won't have to store the data, and a company that is secure and does want to store the data can store the data, which is just the blockchain, And then the other organizations, like a hospital may not want to store all of the medical data in-house, right? Now, obviously, medical or that's a bad example because medical information is private. So that's a bad example. Let me switch. Let me change gears. Because this is like the whole idea. This is mostly public stuff. But anyway, I actually, you know what, I'm just going to continue. So organizations could use much larger pools of data to posted by other organizations and users with blockchain systems. Again, yeah, that's exactly what I was just describing. Users may even choose to accept incentives from organizations to share data that they would have been reluctant to share in the past, allowing organizations to gain greater insight into their users. So, all right, and it goes back to my example earlier about the Netflix watch time. Your Netflix watch time of your shows, right? All right, they're collecting this data on you about your what you are watching, how long you're watching it for, which shows you're watching, yeah, how long you're watching them for. They're collecting that data. Well, you know, you might not want them to collect that data on you, but also, what if they were paying you in crypto and keeping you anonymous? Like your personal information is anonymous. It's just the information itself of the shows that you watched. It's just you are just verifying that you are a user that watched this show for X amount of time. And that's anonymous, but yeah, anyway, you could be paid. You theoretically could be paid in crypto for Netflix collecting that data. Now, whether I'm not saying Netflix is going to pay users to collect that data, but that it could theoretically be. I don't know. Anyway, while Web3 could provide a shared data layer, it would not provide intrinsic interoperability. Even if the data are present within a smart contract on the blockchain itself, even if the data are present within a smart contract or on a blockchain itself, some organization may choose to implement proprietary data formats to facilitate lock-in. To prevent this, open data format standards would need to be developed and adopted by communities, organizations, and users. Oh, okay. I see what they're saying. So, all right, that's actually pretty interesting. So, proprietary data formats. So, all right, take for example a song. There's like a few different file formats for a song. You can have like an MP3, you can have a waveform audio, and there's others. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but those are like the main two. And then there's other like sound file formats, like audio. I think one's called like AICC or something. Anyway, there's different file formats for like audio and video. There's MP4, MOV. I don't know. I can't think of like a ton off the top of my head, but technically, you could have a file format that is proprietary, which means a company like created it and they, yeah, whatever. Um, and if they upload a file with that proprietary file format to the blockchain, well, the data is on the blockchain, but no one can really see what it is because no one can decode the proprietary data format or like file format. No one knows what file format that is. They don't know how to read it. It's just because it's just like a string of like ones and zeros basically. That's like all file formats are just a string of ones and zeros, and the format tells you how to read it. But if you don't know how to read it, and because it is how to read it is proprietary knowledge that is held by a centralized organization, then yeah, it's impossible for you to actually get that data at all from the blockchain, because it's in a data format that you're not aware of, or it's like it's impossible to know what that data format is actually. Anyway, so yeah, they'll probably open data format standards would need to be developed and adopted by communities, organizations, and users. So this says would need to be developed, as in has not been developed yet, or has not been finalized yet, or I don't know. And this is the federal government, the NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Again, they are why we use AES 256, or just AES with the three different key sizes. Was it like 128, 190? Was it 196? No, 192, 256, something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, the NIST. So what it sounds like to me is their new file formats are gonna come out relatively in the near future, and that are created and like standardized by like the federal government, the federal United States government, and they're going to be used with Web3 and Web3 applications. For instance, like a music streaming service. Well, there's going to be a standardized sound file format for music streaming services that operate on the Web3, which is pretty much how I described earlier. Like again, instead of paying a monthly subscription to Apple Music like you do now, it might be Apple Music but the Web3 version, and you pay with crypto, and instead of the data being stored on a server and you access that server, and then because like how it works now is like you can download the songs like on like Apple Music or whatever, or Spotify. You can download it to like listen to it offline, and then like every month it pretty much just verifies that you paid your subscription, and then it allows you to keep the download on your phone. That's a basic explanation of it, how it basically works. And when you download it, originally you're just downloading it from a server that Apple Music or Spotify has that stores that file, one of the many servers. They have many versions of that file, many copies of that file, and that in lies the problem. There are so many copies. There's basically an infinite amount of copies. You have a copy of it, I have a copy of it on my phone, your phone, blah, blah, blah. But if it were on the blockchain, there's one copy of it on the blockchain that we all access and we get access to, and then we might download it for offline use, but I don't know. It won't be like, I don't know. It'll be different. Probably. So, yeah, that's why they want to standardize file formats. I guess. With the current Web2 model, users often accept third-party hosting of their personal data to acquire a free service. Complex user agreements allow organizations to access, exchange, and potentially sell user information directly or by providing access to the user for advertising or marketing purposes without notifying the user that a transaction has taken place. Because they own the data, they don't need to notify you of a transaction. It's because they own the data. But if they don't own the data, you own the data, because when you sign these agreements, these like terms of service agreements, you're signing over the rights to certain data. Or you're not necessarily signing over the rights to it, you're just giving rights to it to whatever organization you're signing it over to. You're just giving the rights for them to store it, own it, use it, have it, do anything with it, with basically what they please. And now there are ethical practices with these terms of services, but then there's a lot of terms of services that aren't so ethical. So they're like, don't be scared about those terms of services completely, but also don't be completely trusting. Because you technically could sign over your liver. No, I don't think you can sign over your liver. But, like, those contracts, those terms of services, it's going to eliminate that. That's the idea with all this. It's just going to eliminate that. So they're just going to request access. They're not going to own it. And the terms of service that you sign or whatever, all it's going to say is basically, this organization requests access to this information that is public on this blockchain, blah, blah, blah. And then you're saying, yes, you can have access to it. And then when they access it, the transaction of them accessing it should also be stored on the blockchain. And you can see exactly what they accessed. Theoretically, that's if it's because the blockchain is public, your public information is stored on the blockchain, and then the transaction of your agreement with this company gets posted on the blockchain as well, and you can see the details of that transaction, and you can see what information they got from you in that transaction. Theoretically, that's what I'm interpreting here. So yeah, user data would need to be explicitly requested from the user. Once users are aware of how often an organization or application utilizes their data, they may be reluctant to allow it. Because every time they access it, you're going to know. It's not just like, oh, the first time they access it. No, every single time they access your data on that blockchain, you're going to know. So if they access it one time, if they only ever need to access it one time for like your account creation, let's say, right? You're creating a new account with an organization and they need to get a little bit of information from you or whatever. Well, actually, no, if this is a completely Web3 thing, literally all information that they get from you, you're going to see the transaction of that data, swap. You should be able to see everything. All access to the data, how it was used. You should be able to see it all, because it will all. If the idea is that all of this is going to be on a blockchain, you're going to see everything and all the access to that data. Yeah. Anyway, so user incentives could be monetary. Organizations pay users for access to the data or offer increased capabilities within an application, premium features. So yeah, they might necessarily pay you, but they might give you some premium features, with an incentive model in place. Organizations, and that's the thing, an incentive model. You need some sort of incentive model. And there is an incentive model with like cryptocurrencies. There's always an incentive model. And the incentive model is, transaction fees and the mining rate. So, I was saying that's how new ones are generated. Like with each new block, this one generates like a set number of Bitcoin, and this one generates more Bitcoin, and all of this Bitcoin goes into wallets. It goes immediately into wallets, right? And those wallets, in turn, it gets stored on like a new block, right? Or it's not stored on a new block, but it's stored within that block, and then when it goes from that wallet to like another wallet somewhere, that's stored on a new block. So the Bitcoin creation is stored immediately in a wallet, and you can see which wallet it's stored in, and then like the newly generated Bitcoin. And then whenever that Bitcoin is transacted, you see the paper trail of it. And you can see it through all of the blocks, through all the different blocks. And you can see the perfect paper trail of like all the Bitcoin that were transacted. So the Bitcoin itself is just a number. It's just a number in the whole blockchain, right? But that number can only come from the block. And the block only exists as a proof of work thing. And when you stack another block on top, and to solve a singular block is like winning a lottery, because it's a very hard, difficult like calculation, but then also you're competing with other people, so it's a race. So not only is it winning a lottery, but it's also a race to win that lottery. And when you win that lottery, a new Bitcoin is generated, a fresh new Bitcoin, and it's stored right into a wallet. That is theoretically, if this were the first, they call it the Genesis block. If this were the first block ever, that would have been the only Bitcoin in existence. Literally, the next block, the only transactions that could have existed are the transactions from that original Bitcoin to somewhere else. Those are the only new transactions. But then whoever mined that second block gets some new Bitcoin that goes into another wallet, and then that goes somewhere. So the Bitcoin is always the every Bitcoin in existence. If it exists on the Bitcoin network, and basically all that means is if it exists on the Bitcoin blockchain, which has been verified over time through proof of work, in order to fake ownership of any level of Bitcoin, you would have to, again, it's impossible. So it's just impossible. Trust, with the current state of how Bitcoin mining is and everything, it's just impossible because you have more nodes, you have more computing power working for the system than working against the system, and that's always going to be the case. That will always be the case. Because the work it takes to work for the system is exponentially easier and more profitable. So the idea is like, and this is the whole idea of the future of the internet and just like cybersecurity in general. Honestly, just like cybersecurity is you want to make it more profitable to work for the system than it is to work against the system. And that's just the nature of, honestly, like crime. Is like crime can be profitable, but the idea is you should make the system more profitable to not commit crime and to actually like just work with the system. And this system, it just is. It's because it's decentralized. It is a perfectly trustable system that, as long as you have faith that there are more computers in the world working for the system than working against it, which you can see how many computers are working in the world, by the way. Like that is also public. Like you can see all the nodes. You can't necessarily see all the information about the nodes, but you can see how many nodes there are. You can see the difficulty of the current, state of Bitcoin and the different cryptos and whatnot. And that's just like basically the current. That's neither here nor there. That's just getting into the like nitty gritty details, but anyway, with Web3's proposed changes, user data would need to be explicitly requested from the user. Once user aware how often the user utilizes their data, they may be reluctant to allow it. And organizations may then need to provide greater incentives to access user data. So, yeah, because you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. But in this, the whole idea is that there are no closed doors. It's full transparency with just blockchain technology. So user incentives, monetary, pay access for their premium features with an incentive model in place, but organizations could access. If an organization wishes to conduct research that requires a large sample pool, again, Netflix with their watch time, if they want a sample pool of user watch time on different shows, they're conducting research on that. They may be able to access more user data by providing greater incentives to users for their data. So Netflix basically issues a statement that says, "Hey, user, all Netflix users, we're doing this program now. If you allow us to collect your watch time data, we're gonna give you a little bit of cryptocurrency. Yay!" Yeah, that's the basic idea of it. So, Web3 security and privacy. This section discusses blah blah blah. Many Web3 security challenges arise from the increased need for users to be actively involved in protecting. Sorry, one second. Many Web3 security challenges arise from the increased need for users to be actively involved in protecting and managing their personal data. Others arise from that I was saying this earlier. Many security challenges arise from the increased need for users to be actively involved in protecting their and managing their data. So you need to be actively involved in like handling your stuff, and not every user is going to be. So because not every user is tech savvy and whatnot, and it's gonna take. That's why it's gonna take so long for it to be adopted. Is because, okay, theoretically, if we were able to just like download skills and knowledge from person to person, we could just like update everybody's brain to like work with this new system of like Web3 tomorrow. Like this could theoretically be a thing tomorrow, but it's just not going to be, because not everybody is going to be able to adopt to this, and it's just going to take. There's going to be a transition period, and that's natural for any. It's just going to be a transition period, and that transition period is already started. We've already started transitioning to Web3, but eventually it will be like. It should be like 95% adopted by like, because right now it's like 5%. Like because really all you can do with Web3 right now is like crypto wallets and I don't know, NFTs and whatnot. Like it exists. It's just not like they don't have all the Web3 applications yet that it was describing. So yeah, all right. Trust and scams in a decentralized ecosystem. So there's a significant amount of trust built into the current Web2 ecosystem, and most well-known organizations have garnered some degree of trust from users. Perfect one is Google. A lot of people trust Google, but they only trust Google because of Google's reputation and what they say. But what's to stop Google from switching tomorrow to something else? Like we have built-in trust with these organizations. Google, Netflix. I say Netflix a lot. I've been using that example a lot, but that's just an easy one to use. But anyway, so with Web3, many applications are likely to be developed by organizations that may not be well known. Yeah, just like new competitors and whatnot. Users would then need to rely on each other to determine the legitimacy of an application or organization through reputation and reviews via word of mouth, social media, centralized news aggregation, and forms of communication. So yeah, as like new competitors pop up, you're gonna have the fishy, scammy ones, but then you're also gonna have the good ones. And it's up to humanity and word of mouth, and it's up to us to just tell each other which ones are legitimate and which ones we're actually going to use. Like Cash App or Venmo, like which one are you going to use? I don't know. Anyway. Sorry, one second. So yeah, phishing attacks and scams have been very successful against users. Blah, blah, blah. In the Web 2 architecture. Yeah, I was talking about earlier. Yeah, when all these companies have your data stored on their own servers. But also, it's very easy with like email in its current form to be like, to send out spam emails. But the thing is theoretically, if it's not all right. Opening a new like position on a blockchain, like a new wallet of some kind that stores your private key, because that's all wallets do. They just store your private key that allows you to access the. It just gives having the private key just gives you the right to transact like cryptocurrency and whatnot. So what am I saying here? If you get like an email one day that says on like a Web3 email that says, it's a scam and it's a scam, well, you can report where you got that transaction is going to be recorded on the blockchain, first of all. And you can report the wallet that it came from. And this goes back to the idea of working against the system versus working for the system. That wallet that you reported, a scam from, and if it can be verified as a scam, like if it is, again, working, anyway, then that phishing, like, yeah, it should be easier to like prevent it from happening more. Whereas like right now, well, you can just like create a new email willy-nilly and bot emails and bot like phishing scams and whatnot. Like it's very easy to do, but doing that in a Web3 format for blockchain would be very difficult because, yeah, it would just be very difficult just because of the inherent security of how like blockchain works. So anyway. Yeah, but anyway. So since users would be responsible for their own data, they may be tricked into giving out far more than what is possible to do in legacy Web 2.0 applications. One of the worst scenarios would be a user giving away their private keys to a malicious actor and allowing them full access to all of their data, like giving away a username and password combination in Web 2.0. Yeah. So again, that's what I'm talking about with your wallet, storing your private key. As long as because the private key just gives you the right to control a bit of information on the blockchain and to create new transactions on the blockchain. That's what the private key does for you. So, but technically anyone can use a private key to to manage that wallet associated with that private key and to manage the assets that are associated with that private key. So scammers may also use stolen or lookalike accounts to pose as someone with influence. Yeah, that's pretty common on social platforms to entice users to purchase. Because like they do, like Microsoft, there are Microsoft phishing emails or Google phishing emails, or like those. They make a fake Microsoft website or they make a fake Google website and they get you to log in with your credentials, but it's not actually Microsoft, and then they end up stealing your account information and whatnot. So you gotta watch out for those. It's very, oh my god, like I get tricked sometimes. I have been lucky enough to like it hasn't I haven't actually like given my information to those, but I have almost for a couple times because I got anyway. Yeah, it's long story short. Um, there's been a couple times where I've almost like put my login information on one of those fake websites. But luckily, I don't think I have. I don't think I have anyway. But I have been tricked. I'm not shy to admit that. And you are going to be tricked. You probably have been tricked and you may not even know it. There is a good chance that you have been tricked before and you are completely unaware that you fell victim to one of those fake websites or something. That's very possible. So so utilize fraudulent websites or services. Users may approve or authorize fraudulent Web3 applications or smart contracts to manage and transfer digital assets from their wallets. So that's a worry. That's a security concern. So these applications may ask for approval from a third party to manage the user's digital assets, which would allow the malicious third party to transfer any digital asset in the user's possession. Yeah. Yeah. So you can't approve that. If you're getting a request that says we're going to control all of your digital assets, obviously deny that one. But that is technically would be possible with this infrastructure of the internet, this Web3. Malicious actors could use a lack of familiarity of Web3 to target developers by hacking applications and abusing previously granted approvals and authorizations given by users. They could also exploit users by having them sideload applications from a non-official source. That may be entirely fraudulent or a compromised version of a legitimate application. These compromisers may ask for greater system privileges than are needed to accomplish a task and may abuse these additional privileges to further harm users. Yeah, basically malware. That's all. That's smart contracts may be developed that. Yeah, it's just talking about like the security stuff that can happen in this version of the internet, the Web3. Chain abuse, a website where users can report malicious crypto activity, shows that phishing scams outnumber all other categories of scams combined. Wow. That is crazy. Numerous reports and articles have been posted about the extent of phishing scams and Web3 and NFTs. Chain abuse categorizes scams into 3 levels. Yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, maybe seen as burdensome to some, and beneficial to others. It could provide an opportunity for users to control and utilize their data in ways that they have not been able to in the past, and it could also become also come with increased responsibilities and complexities for those who are used to organizations maintaining their personal data. Yeah, so some people just aren't they're gonna read some of this stuff or they're gonna hear this and be like, what the hell, and they're just not going to understand it. But it's not that crazy. It's not like it's going to like completely change the internet, but it is at the same time. It's just going to change like the back end of things. The front end is going to still look pretty much the same. You're still going to go to a website. You're still going to log in and do your stuff and whatnot. It's just yeah. It's just how the back end of it's going to change. Not necessarily the front end too much, but the back end of how all this works and how the data is managed and stored. That's what changes. So yeah, non-technical users may not understand the different security and privacy options available to them, and they may stick with default options in software. This complexity can be reduced with software that abstracts the underlying blockchain technology and has been designed with security and usability in mind. So user options should be clearly represented with explanations of benefits and potential issues that may accompany those choices. So that's cool. They're trying to make it user-friendly. Software and hardware failures can place the burden of recovering system access on users themselves. With Web 2.0 applications, users typically utilize credentials like email, username, and password for authentication. However, if a user loses or forgets their credentials, they must then rely on an application's built-in recovery features such as forgotten username or forgot password. These recovery systems allow users to regain access to an account by sending an email with the username to the registered email of the account, blah, blah, blah. Account loss is a frequent event, and a surprising number of users utilize the forgot password feature provided by many existing whatever. Yeah, so people lose their passwords all the time. Yeah, sure. Web3 software will need to ease the burden of recovering and restoring account access. It is currently not computationally feasible to reverse engineer or regenerate a private key, which is the fundamental technology behind Web3 accounts. So nearly 20% of the total amount of lost Bitcoin is due to users. Yeah, this is huge. Nearly 20% of the total amount of lost Bitcoin is due to the users losing access to their keys. So users will need to be proactive by setting up a recovery scheme ahead of time and establishing a robust backup system to restore their accounts, their access to their accounts, while also preventing unauthorized users from restoring someone else's account. So research and development of user-friendly methods for users to back up and restore access to their accounts is ongoing. All right, what I am imagining is that how this looks for Web3, because you cannot lose access to your like Web3 stuff, because that's like your public information. That's So these credentials, you cannot lose access to this because they do not have full control over it, because like with the current system, they have full control over it, right? Because it's on their servers, they know it, right? And you can use your email and whatnot. You can do the forgot password, forgot username, whatever. You can do that stuff because they have full control over it. But when they do not have full control over it, hey, they can't help you. There is no recovery mechanism. It's impossible. So what my idea of a recovery quote unquote mechanism is, you store your key in a cloud somewhere. So right now we have you have your crypto wallet that stores your wallet key, and in the future you're gonna have your some form of a Web3 hub wallet that stores your private key for all of your different applications. For instance, like YouTube, Netflix, blah, blah, blah. It's going to store your key for all those different things. And it might be one key, or it might that you use for all those different things. It probably would be just one key instead of having multiple keys for all those different applications. You would just have one key. But I don't know, because the information on those different applications might be stored on different blockchains, because each, like Netflix, they might have their own Netflix blockchain that has all the Netflix information on it. I don't know, though. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to look exactly. I might be completely misleading you on how this is going to look. But how I imagine this is basically, all right, if you lose your key, right? Well, you contact some institution, you pay a fee, a monthly subscription fee, or it might be free. It might just be a free service that is provided with because like we have free Google Drive right now. You have a free when you make a Google account that is free to make, you have a free 15 gigabytes of storage. So private keys don't take a lot of storage. So it might just be a free thing. It might be a free service that your wallet key or your private key and access to like all of your Web3 stuff and restoring access is just stored on you can store it yourself so that you have full control over it, but it is also stored on another server somewhere, like a cloud server, like a Google Drive or something, I don't know, or Google, where that backs up your private key. So if you happen to lose your private key, well, you can always log into your Google account, and you'll have your private key. But I don't know, maybe. There would have to be some other form of. Yeah, I don't know. There'd have to be some other, like there is a level of trust to that, but if the private key, you can see all the stuff that private key, like the blockchain is public. So if an institution that you give your private key to back up, if they happen to like use your private key without your permission, well, you'll be able to see it. So again, it's like it kind of goes back to the point of like it's better to just work for the system than to work against it, because if you are an organization that provides a service that backs up private keys for users for their Web3 hub or whatever, right? And you provide that service for these people to back up their key for them, so that if they ever lose it, they can come to you and you've got it. You've got backups of it. And you happen to one day use one of those private keys to like steal someone's cryptocurrency from their wallet or something, or to do something, and then they see that, and then they report you to like the like, I don't know. I don't even know where it would be reported necessarily, but they would be able to see it. It would be public. They would be able to see what you did with that private key. And that would probably be illegal. So you would just report it to the authorities because it'd be a crime. I'd imagine that's that probably, so you wouldn't just like report it to the police. You wouldn't call your local police department, but you would probably call yeah, because that's like I mean, it's stealing. It's perfect proof of like it's the perfect evidence of this company stole my private key and they stole my cryptocurrency. I was paying like, yeah, it would just be the perfect. So again, they would have an incentive to just like, I don't know, it would be very stupid for a company to do that. It would be very, very stupid for a company to actually do that. So they have the incentive of not being persecuted, probably. I don't know. Um, to like because it's stealing digital assets. You'd be, and yeah. Um, and this is decentralized. The system itself is decentralized, but regulation of the system is going to happen to some degree. Uh, I'd imagine so anyway. Like, well, yeah, it's probably going to be illegal for someone to just steal your digital assets. Uh, if you like, all right, yeah, you get my point. Uh, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Anyway, let's continue. So it is often said that the internet never forgets and that anything posted on the internet is there forever, which is both true and false. Yeah, that's the reason they say it never forgets is because when you put something on the internet, there is a high chance that wherever you put that information, they took that and duplicated it on a few different servers. And then there's another chance that they took that information, sold it to another organization who put it on their servers and then also duplicated it and put it on their servers. And then when you delete your information from that first organization, so let me go back to my beautiful drawing here. So, all right, yeah, you have like organizations X here. You put your information, you give your information to them, right? You are N. You give your information to them. They give your information to Y, right? And Y has your information, and they have your information N. Well, you delete your information on X. Well, your information is still on Y because you did not delete it from their server. You only deleted it from X's server. You did not delete it from Y's server. So it is living safely here. That's why your information is never deleted and it lives forever on the internet. That's the wrong. Where am I? Here we go. So data posted to the current internet are largely ephemeral and can disappear at any moment. However, copies of the data may have been made and posted in numerous other locations, which is exactly what I just described. Web3 utilizes blockchains and distributed ledgers. Is the inverse. Data posted to a blockchain are almost certain to remain, and copies of those data are made outside of the blockchain will have reduced. All right, so it says. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. It says almost certain to remain because of the whole idea. Again, it's impossible to forge it. It's an impossible computation to forge the system. So once the data is there, it's there, and it's impossible to go and change it. And copies of the data, blah blah blah. So yeah, Web3, which utilizes blockchains and distributed ledgers, is the inverse. Data posted to a blockchain are almost certain to remain, and copies of that data made outside of the blockchain will have reduced meaning because all context and provenance will have been removed. So, yeah. Since some standalone data may be posted to a blockchain, users and organizations should remember that it may be effectively impossible to remove data from such systems and refrain from posting any sensitive information directly to a blockchain. So, yes, like, you can't just go uploading your, like, nudes to a blockchain, especially in the web, like, like, you shouldn't, because it can't be removed. So pornography on the blockchain is going to be heavily regulated in my mind. I don't know. I actually didn't even think about that before. That's gonna be interesting to because like what is to stop a user from just posting pornography, and then it gets on the blockchain, they only have a limited amount of time basically before they can like dispute that, or they can't really dispute that. I don't know. It's like, how do you? So I don't know. Anyway, but also not just that's one bit of sensitive information, but there's also other sensitive information out there. Like your social security number. You shouldn't put that on the blockchain at all. Um, but anyway, um, it is effectively impossible to remove data from such a system. Yeah. So additionally, both organizations and users will likely make mistakes with Web3 and post sensitive data to the blockchain that malicious actors. Oh, okay. So it talks about the removal of these data from the blockchain. Rollbacks or reorgs may not take place immediately, if at all. Currently, there is no formalized procedures for removing data from blockchain systems, and removal is largely decided through lengthy discussions between blockchain maintaining organizations and users because it's decentralized. Yeah, because it's like everyone would have to agree to change the ledger, and everyone would have to vote and say, yes, we agree that this is the change. This change needs to happen. Because one party can make the change, but then every other party has to agree that that change is valid. And it's like there has to be some form of validating audits like this, like an amendment. There has to be some way of amending the blockchain, or like amending the transactions within a blockchain or something. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the answer though. I don't know how that would be. I don't know how you would go about doing that. How you would go about amending a blockchain, other than just, yeah, like having the long discussion between all the parties, and just coming to like a just having, again, the trusted organization aspect. But if we're trying to decentralize and remove the trust aspect, remove the need for any sort of real trust, the only trust you need is just that, like like with the data requests and whatnot. I don't know. Anyway, um, organization, they'll likely make mistakes. Yeah, and there's no formalized procedures for removing the data. The removal of data may also be costly. To roll back a series of confirmed transactions on a blockchain, the same amount of work must be redone from that block onward. For example, if a rollback of a transaction is 10 blocks away from the latest block, then all 11 blocks must be remade after removing. That was what I was talking about earlier. Like, everyone has to be remade after. And so, all right, so like when you make a fraudulent block, someone can like dispute that, um or yeah, I'm not going to go into it all again, actually. Yeah, the further back the rollback must go, the more work must be done. This is especially costly for proof of work blockchain systems. um Often, the removal of data is controversial among users and may erode their trust in the system overall, or even lead to a chain split. If a chain split occurs before the data are removed from the system, those data will still exist on a copy of the blockchain. So depicts, yeah, which this has happened before. A chain split like this. This is not uh, chain A and chain B can decide how to handle data removal differently. For example, figure 2, there's the same chain split that occurred in figure 1, but chain A, which one's chain A? Oh, I guess this one? Oh, reorg chain. Yeah, okay, I don't know. Remove some data from block 22 and performed a reorganization to remove the data. Now, the original chain A is defunct. And a new chain exists with an altered block 22. The original chain's block 22 still exists in chain B without the what? Bro, what? Yeah, this is another thing. Yeah, moreover, there is nothing to prevent individual users or organizations from caching data from a blockchain into. So this is another thing too. Once it's out there, it's again the same idea of the internet. Once it's out there, you can make copies of it. So once the blockchain is out there, there's essentially an infinite amount of copies of it, and the copies of it are being backed up. So once the data is there, it's there. It's on the blockchain. So you want to be real careful about what you actually put on the blockchain, because it's there. Like when this happens, it's still somewhere else. So, anyway. I've been recording for 2 hours now. Golly. Compared to large centralized data sources that malicious servers can attack to steal vast quantities of data on multiple users, Web3 would require malicious actors to specifically target individual users. This means that attacks would be less significant. Requiring users to protect their own data would entail securing those data while managing and creating methods to restore users' access should their primary means be lost. Users may choose to utilize as much or as little security as desired. Increased user data control may also result in increased user privacy. Okay. Organizations would need to specify exactly what data they need to access to and potentially provide users with data retention policies. Users can then decide whether to provide the requested data. And in many cases, the user may only need to provide a verifiable attestation of the data through cryptographically provable methods rather than the data themselves. Proof of residency in a state, but not the address of the residency. So, like, yeah. I mean, there's ways to do that. So since Web3 is still in early stages of development, errors and bugs, yeah. Well, it'll be built on existing best practices for software development. Yeah, Web3 developers will also need to actively monitor for exploits, mitigate attacks, and quickly blah, blah, blah. Errors and bugs represent, yeah, well, whatever. If a user has a digital asset and can pay the fees to send it to someone else, they can transfer ownership of the digital asset to any address they want. Current blockchain systems do not require permission from the recipient before a digital asset transfer is made. So recipients are unable to refuse such transfers. As the use of Web3 system grows, this inability to refuse assets may become an issue, as users could potentially send unsolicited spam, advertisement transactions, or more malicious digital assets. Yeah. A malicious actor could also post data to a blockchain that are illegal in another region and then send it to the address of people known to be in those regions. The user cannot refuse receipt of the digital asset. Oh, so you can basically force a crime upon somebody else. Because all right, yeah, if this data is in the name of someone and it's illegal in their country and you forced the data upon them and then they get charged with the crime for having that data associated with their name, but they didn't ask it from you, you just gave it to them. That's pretty funny actually. It's not funny, but it's funny how that would be possible. The user cannot refuse. Even if the user burns the digital asset, it can still be proven that they owned it at one time. Yeah, and the fact that it may be used against them in a legal system. Yeah, so yeah, it would be I don't know. It would be walking up to your buddy and just handing him a brick of cocaine or something, and then calling the police on him and being like, "Hey, this guy has a brick of cocaine. Look." And your friend's just sitting there with this brick in his hand. He's like, no, he just gave it to me. I didn't want it. Here, take it back. And here, I'll throw it out. And you try to even throw it away or something. And then the police are just like, oh no, but you had that brick of cocaine. It was you had it. Yeah, and we're gonna charge you with intent to sell. It's just it's the same thing. Same concept, different context. So the choice of underlying blockchain platform for any given Web3 application will be an important decision to avoid availability issues and mitigate potential DDoS attacks. Most will likely target larger, smart contract capable blockchains to deploy their Web3 applications. However, there may be issues if a significant number of developers choose the same blockchain, such as execution cost increases and longer wait times for execution. Scaling solutions are still being actively investigated and developed, so this may become irrelevant in the future. So, yeah, if you have everyone using the same blockchain, well, that blockchain is going to grow pretty fast. And also that blockchain is going to have to, execute a set number of transactions. It's going to have to execute a minimum number of transactions that is greater than the demand. And yeah, so I was saying, I kind of alluded to earlier, Netflix might have their own blockchain and Google might have their own blockchain. And in fact, under Google, they may have a Google Drive blockchain, and they may have a Google Docs blockchain, and they may have a Google Slides blockchain, and they may have a YouTube blockchain because YouTube is owned by Google. So they may transition to a YouTube blockchain. So each individual service, each individual application could have its own blockchain, technically. And it just it just uses each of those blockchains just happen to use the same they reference from one overarching blockchain, which is like maybe there's like one root blockchain that is like the Web3 blockchain, and it has the minimum like amount of information required to establish a digital identity for somebody. And then that is like that blockchain is basically the blockchain with every Web3 user. It has the information of every single Web3 user, but not all the information related to that user. Just that particular blockchain would just have the basic information that establishes the identity of that Web3 user. And then you have all the other blockchains that have the actual data of them like using the different applications and crypto exchanges and whatnot. So I don't know. Yeah, that's my how I think it would work. Basically, you would just have different blockchains for all the different applications and stuff. Because you're storing you know, and you can have like certain blockchains because like all right, YouTube, you're mostly going to be storing video, so like I don't know. Anyway, you get my point. That's how I see this happening. So yeah, denial of service attacks may still occur if, as so yeah, not everybody can use the same blockchain. So yeah, likely all the information will be it'll be a network of multiple different blockchains because there's bridges. Oh yeah, so let me go to this real quick. This is a paper by CISA, which is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. So I'm not trying. I don't know what that word is. Of Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency technology evaluations. And they talk about some fancy stuff in here. One thing they talk about is Web3 and key components. So this is like a pretty good idea of like, you know, what's going on here. So you have your blockchain network. So you have like the Bitcoin network, and in the Bitcoin network you have like all these different nodes, and at each individual node, there's tons of different nodes, but at each individual node, they store the entire blockchain. Each one has a copy of the blockchain, which the blockchain contains a chain of blocks. Each block contains transactions of the currency, and this is in the context of cryptocurrency, but also information transactions. It can be data transactions as well. It doesn't have to be cryptocurrency transactions. It can be data transactions, but it contains the data of the transaction itself, and it can contain like NFTs and the smart contracts and everything. And then it contains like validation from stuff, and yeah, anyway, and like account data, and you have like side chains and dApps. I'm not gonna go into all that stuff right now because I don't fully understand all this shit to myself either. So I'm not an expert to go into all of it, but this is the basic idea of it. Like that's so with the blockchain network, and so each blockchain network communicates with other networks through these bridges. And then that's where, all right, so each one of these with these yellow like circles is a component with cybersecurity concern. So yeah, there's cybersecurity concern with the wallets themselves. There's cybersecurity concern with each node themselves, and there's cybersecurity concern with the smart contracts that make up the stuff, and like the validation process. There's cybersecurity concern there, and then communicating between networks, one network to another network, the bridge between that is there's cybersecurity concerns there, and there's also cybersecurity concerns with the exchanges. So when you have cryptocurrency, and then you get cryptocurrency, and that cryptocurrency goes into a wallet and the wallet just holds a private key that goes into a wallet. Well, if you want to realize those gains and you want to trade that that cryptocurrency for like a real currency, like a real world currency, you would do that through an exchange, and that's where cybersecurity concerns come in, because that is another transaction. That transaction going from cryptocurrency to like a real world currency is not the same as this transaction. A transaction between a cryptocurrency, like between cryptocurrencies, is different. Um, anyway, why did I get on that? Anyway, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so denial of service may still occur as um, malicious actors attempt to exploit flaws in smart contracts to overwhelm and hinder contract execution. Identifying areas to mitigate denial of service attacks and how they might affect Web3 is critical for developers. Developers may seek to deploy Web3 applications on multiple blockchain platforms to spread the execution load and potentially reduce operating costs temporary during times of excessive execution, or when the cost of execution is over a certain threshold on their main blockchain platform of choice. Yeah. Yeah, so like I said, YouTube, they might, I said they might have their own blockchain or something, but maybe not. Maybe they just use another blockchain, and they're just like contracted with, um, I don't know, to provide maximum benefit. The various deployments need to interact with one another. So cross-chain bridges, cross-chain bridges, cross-chain bridges, cross-chain bridges, cross-chain bridges will need to be utilized. There have been many articles about cross-chain bridge vulnerabilities, and this will remain a key aspect of security to improve for Web3. Yeah. So alternatively, hold on. Number 32. Does this reference CISA at all? No, it does not. No, yeah. Okay, interesting. So, anyway. Yeah, so Web3 applications that make use of these full-time exchanges, the decentralized exchanges, they may face additional unforeseen issues that are not present in Web 2 application or Web 2.0 applications. So, like Web 2.0 applications are just like your YouTube, your Netflix, your Google, all this stuff now. Web 3 applications might there's gonna be different issues, and they're gonna look a little bit different. Since Web3 utilizes blockchain technologies, which are tamper-resistant, tamper-evident, blah, 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 removing or censoring data will become more difficult. Yeah, I said that earlier. With the current Web 2.0 model, organizations can remove data at will, with ease and without transparency. Since Web3 is used, owned, and operated by many users, where no single user can remove data on their own, a majority of blockchain operators who maintain the blockchain, often called miners, would need to agree to remove data from a blockchain. So yeah, you would have to get all the miners to agree, and that's like millions of people basically across, or not millions of people, but it's I don't know how many nodes there are in the world for like Bitcoin, but it's a lot. The operators would know exactly, operators would know exactly what data were being requested to be removed and could determine whether it was beneficial to them and the system overall. Some operators may choose to remove the information, others may not. In the past, decisions such as these have led to chain splits that result in dividing a single blockchain into separate and incompatible versions. So it just creates like yeah, just like a separate version of it. But like, how does that happen? Because then that's like almost just pulling value out of thin air. Or I guess not value out of thin air, but it's literally pulling like you're almost like just duplicating. You're making one into two. And then it's like all of the coins that existed on the one, do they now exist on the other as well? Like, did you just like duplicate all those coins? I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know how the chain splitting works, but oh well, here you go. In a chain split, everything up to the point of the split is present on all the copies of the blockchain that result from the chain split. A chain split may be triggered for many reasons, such as changes to the underlying code base, fixing an exploit, upgrading cryptographic mechanisms, so changes to the blockchain data itself, reversing transaction moving data, and even philosophical differences. A group of users disagrees with proposed changes. So chain splits do not typically occur without reason, and changes that could lead to them are discussed, debated, and evolve over a long period of time. Most chain splits end up being temporary as users eventually migrate to the blockchain with more users, and the others are abandoned. That is not always the case, and a split chain can retain enough users to maintain its activities. With Web3, this could lead to unforeseen issues that users and developers would need to address. Web3 smart contract applications would be affected and would continue running on all the different chains that split. For smart contracts, built with the ability to self-destruct, the developer could determine which blockchain they wished to support and self-destruct the rest. However, there are some smart contracts built without the ability to self-destruct to provide users with a sense of longevity in the application. NFT smart contracts are often deployed without the ability to self-destruct. Interesting. After a chain split, the smart contract and all of its NFTs exist on all split chains. This may cause confusion for users and potential investors of those NFTs. Yeah. There may also be differences in choice between a Web3 application developer and the users. The developer may pick a specific chain to support after the split, while users may choose another. If the developer decides to only support one of the chains, users of other chains could lose access to their preferred chain's application. Yeah, because see, like, when you, like, all right, if this were a Bitcoin, for example, when you create two chains, it, like, duplicates the same Bitcoin. There's two versions of the same Bitcoin that exist on two different versions of the chain. Because, see, this is a perfect example of it. Like, on this version of the chain, the blue guy owns the NFT on block 24 and on block 25. But then on the chain B, it was transferred on block 25 to this person. So it's like, but it wasn't transferred on this chain. So that this NFT still exists and is owned by this guy. But this NFT, which is technically the same NFT as this one, is owned by this guy, the pink guy. That's crazy. What do you do? What do you do in that situation? So, okay, it depicts the following series of events. The original chain had blocks prior to this example, which starts at block 20. In block 21, a smart contract was deployed, shown as the gray document. In block 22, the smart contract minted an NFT as shown by the small piece of abstract art. In block 23, the NFT was purchased by the blue user, as shown by the small blue person icon. However, on block 24, the chain split into two different blockchains, chain A and chain B. On block 24, the blue user maintains ownership, and same thing on blue, they maintain ownership. But on blockchain A, the blue user maintains ownership into block 25 and block 26 and block 27. But then on chain B, they sell the NFT to the pink user, who's shown, and they own it on block 25. So it's like you can own something and also not own it at the same time if it's duplicated. And it's like, which chain do you default to? Do you default to this chain or do you default to this chain? And what if they're the same size and you can't agree that two different groups can't agree on which chain you... Anyway, I don't know. So in this example, everything up to the chain split will be duplicated on each subsequent branch that results from the chain split. This, I feel like, is probably the most important sentence in this paper. Organizations may also attempt to link online users with real-world identities. So, yes, this will happen. That's inevitable. And also, um, they can record, because it's on the blockchain and it's public. It is a record of user transactions with other users and organizations, so they can see every transaction. So every data transfer, or not even data transfer, just everything. They can see everything if it's public. Since these profiles may be built with indirect data, there will be a level of uncertainty regarding their accuracy. The organization may need to make assumptions when creating the profile, and the attribution of multiple transactions to a single user may be tenuous. Well-written user software, while it could help mitigate this issue by implementing user privacy features such as automatically and transparently using new addresses for every transaction and clearly displaying what information is being requested and what information will be sent. Okay, sure. Some regulation may conflict with the technical aspects of Web3 applications, for example, privacy preserving regulation, the general data protection regulation, and several states, such as the California Privacy Rights Act, have been passed to protect citizens and enable individuals to request that their data be completely removed from an application. With the proposed Web3 architecture, this may become more difficult to accomplish, and Web3 developers will have to decide how to accommodate such regulations and whether they are even technically possible to implement. There may also be conflicting. Okay, so sorry, hold on. I'm going off on a tangent real quick. I'm thinking about this. It was talking about earlier Web3 social media. So, what if you had a social media that said, in order to even use the platform, you have to basically be a minor and to contribute to a pool, which contributes to the security of that social media platform. I don't know. That'd be interesting. Yeah, anyway. Governments may find it difficult to enforce regulations on a decentralized distributed system. Application developers may be anonymous, and applications are hosted and run by a decentralized network that is resilient to disruption and tampering. It may be unclear whether a developer, users, or even an application falls within a regulator's jurisdiction. Yeah. So the Web3 vision proposes significant changes to how the internet functions as the community creates. So it's not necessarily completely changing the front end. Again, you're still gonna have your websites, and you're gonna go to your website, and you're gonna have login information of some kind, and your credentialing, and you're gonna have your YouTube videos and your Netflix, and you're gonna have you're gonna have all your stuff. Don't worry. It's not completely going away. It's not completely changing, but it's changing the back end of how the internet functions. And as the community creates concrete designs and architectures, it is critical to consider security issues as early as possible. So that's why the NIST is working on this now, so that come 5-10 years from now, it'll be in a better state, in a more developed state, the Web3, because right now it's in a very primitive state. As I think I said that like early in the recording, which I'm 2.5 hours into this recording now, of this like analysis of this paper. But yeah, anyway, so security should be integrated into the design instead of being added later to a built solution. This paper enumerates a list of, and that's exactly the idea of just blockchain in general, is that the system itself is secure, and it is because security is integrated into the system inherently. It just is. The system works off of security. So and it's no different than a banking system of some kind. A banking system just works off of the security of that banking system. So anyway, This paper enumerates a list of potential security and privacy concerns, blah, whatever. Web3 also proposes a shift from an organization-centric data ownership model to a user-centric data ownership model. While this change can provide some security benefits, it also comes with more user responsibility. Key management and robust backup and recovery solutions are critical to prevent the unintentional loss of access to user accounts, and a greater awareness of the threat landscape is needed, and the impacts of scams on individual users can be devastating, and the result in loss of many digital assets. Yeah, so like I said, with key management and whatnot, that's the name of the game, is key management. That's all you basically have to remember is your private key, and as long as you have access to that private key, you can do what you want. But then once someone you don't want access gets hold of that key, that private key, they can do with your stuff with whatever they want. So it's going to be like very important that you secure that key well. And like there will probably be some services where you can secure that key, like on a Google Drive or something, you know. That will probably be a service in the future. Hopefully, that should, you know. Obviously, it's not been developed yet. I don't think anyway. There might be key backup services like that already, but I don't know. Web3 currently under development, and the philosophies, frameworks, and architectural designs are in flux. And if Web3 increases in user and organizational use, its technological scope will increase as well to include more use cases and capabilities. Use cases and capabilities. Again, like pretty much everything. Every application you can think of, whether it be like a social media platform or a database or a just a website or a store or a whatever, or a video game, it should be able to run off of the Web3. It should be able to. So I don't see why it won't be adopted eventually, like just completely. So the technologies in use may change or be adapted to suit those needs. Alternatively, the use of Web3 could decline and eventually be replaced by augmented by a competing vision for the future of the internet. But if this is this is like the current, this is what the federal United States government is talking about. And then you got the reference pages. So this is, yeah, okay. It could be replaced or augmented by a competing vision for the future of the internet. But you are the federal government of the United States of America, or you are representing anyway. You two guys. So, yeah, I encourage you to go. If you skipped through the video and you're just listening to this now, I encourage you to go back and at least watch part of this. I might timestamp this video on different parts that I was reading through and just talking about with different stuff. I might basic timestamps, but anyway, I encourage you to go read. I'll put a link to this paper as well as this one where you can learn more about. I'm not going to go through this one the same. I just wanted to show this, like a little bit about this. There's also some other thing about Web3 in here. Yeah, I guess I'll go through it briefly. Oh yeah, real quick, the FTX collapse. Look, $415 million worth of cryptocurrency was hacked. So the Lazarus Group, responsible for the Ronin network attack, largest crypto heist at $624 million. Crazy. Blockchains have limitations that make them less ideal for mission critical or large scale applications. They do not communicate with each other. They are slow and have scaling challenges. Oh, I did not mean to do that. So yeah, maybe I was saying video games, right? Maybe, but probably not. It might be a long time before like video games are working off of blockchain, but I don't think it's impossible. It'll probably be more. I see it being adapted to the music industry. I see the ideal music industry being similar to like how NFTs are in a way, but like NFTs are really dumb in their current form. NFTs have the potential of being so good, and they're just like really, they're mostly dumb. But anyway, but like music, so music can be just be put on a blockchain, and then you just request access to it, and then you pay a little bit of crypto to get access to like that music on the blockchain, and you just upload the MP3 to or whatever. I don't know. That's my idea of it anyway. I don't know, it might sound a little bit different or look a little bit different, but yeah, I encourage you to go read these papers yourself, or just to watch this video. I know it's 2 hours and 40 minutes already, but yeah, and I'll have links to these this like YouTube video and whatnot. All this will be in the description. So well, and this is just the link to this paper that I was going over. But yeah, this was posted February 25th, 2025. So the original draft was last year. What did this original draft look like? Yeah, I mean, yeah. So this information I'm in this video, like I said, it's not like it's new stuff. This stuff is known, but or it has been known, or it's been talked about for a while already. But see, obsoleted on February 25th, 2025 by yeah. So I mean, what do you do? uh, like you just go to publications here. Uh, oh, well, here's it. Oh, March 1st, 2025. Wait, how is it March 1st? It's not March 1st yet. It's okay. Yeah, here you go. Security's perspective on Web3. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. If you guys got thoughts, I know this video is like completely different than like anything I've done before, and I don't want to be like a tech YouTuber or anything, but I do technology stuff. I mean, this is interesting stuff. I mean, this will fundamentally change how the internet works, and how like applications on the internet work, and how like yeah, cryptocurrency is the future. Whether you like it or not, I'm sorry. It is the future, and it's really not that complicated. Look, like it is complicated. Don't get me wrong, but I'll also include the Bitcoin paper, like this this Bitcoin paper, Satoshi Nakamoto. Yeah, this goes through and it basically just explains the idea of proof of work. This is the main thing you're gonna want to look at. So the idea like the transactions, how transactions work. Um, And then yeah, this proof of work. And these are how the blocks are built. And this is the value you're looking for. You're looking for that nonce. Or that, no, I don't know. You're looking for that. And then this number, see, we implement the proof of work by incrementing the nonce in a block until a value is found that gives the block's hash with the required 0 bits. So that was like the 0 that I was talking about. So you're looking for a string that has some characters, like some zeros and some ones, because it's binary, and then it has like a set number of zeros at the beginning of it, and that number x is variable, or yeah, I did a wait, yeah, so yeah, you get a couple here. So this is like a set number. Anyway, so you're looking for that. So this is calculated by the hash and the nonce and everything. So basically, you're looking for the nonce, and you're incrementing this one by one. So you start at 0, and then you do +1, and then plus another one, and then plus another one. You just do a for loop. So the basic calculation of it is pretty much just a for loop, where I 0, I less than, and then it's a 32-bit number. So the nonce is always for Bitcoin anyway. It's 32 bits. It's within that range. So as long as it's well, I did less than or equal to, but oh no. I guess it would be 32 bits plus 1. Something like that. And then it's just I plus plus. There you go. Oh shit. And then you get your for loop. And then it says calculate that shit. And it does a specific and just how quickly it does this calculation, and then it says return that motherfucker right there. And then if the return is or well, not necessarily return that, but well, yeah, I mean you get this, but as long it only returns this as long as and it returns the value of the nonce, whatever nonce value you put into that for loop. So yeah, it's just this value with your I in this for loop would be your nonce value, and then you would use your nonce with the other. No, wait, what? Yeah, here we go. You would use it with like. I guess I don't know. It's something. I don't know how to. I'm not an expert on this shit. Okay, but I'm just explaining it basically so that you can kind of get an idea. But yeah, go read this paper yourself. It's worth a read. It's really not that long. It's only 9 pages long total, including the reference page and the title page, which includes just an abstract and an introduction. So. I mean, it's really not that. Yeah, just go read it yourself. So, yeah, this is the basics of it. This is the basics of. Oh, no, what am I doing? This is the basics of how it works. So, new transactions are broadcasted to all the nodes on the network, and each node collects the new transactions into a block, and each node works on finding the proof of work for its block. And when a node finds the proof of work and finds that lottery number of that nonce value, and it's within those 32 bits. It's just you don't know what number it is in that 32 bits. It's going to return a value. Like one of those nonce values is going to return a valid hash value, which is what you're looking. Like this is the hash value you're looking for. So it's when you go back to this the previous hash. So this block gets assigned a hash value, and then the next block has the previous hash of this block. So there is it doesn't see it. The thing is, there should also be another thing here that says like current hash or something. I don't know. Whatever. But I guess that's not like completely true either. But anyway, you get the point. So it looks for that proof of work. And when it finds a proof of work, it solves the block. And when you solve the block, you hit the lottery, and it broadcasts the block to all the nodes with transactions in the block. And nodes accept the block only if all the transactions in are valid and not already spent. And so each node takes the block and they validate each transaction, and they use the public keys and whatnot to confirm that each transaction was a legit transaction, and that the value was actually moved, I guess, So nodes express their acceptance of the block by working on creating the next block in the chain using the hash of the accepted value as the previous hash. Or using the hash of the accepted block as the previous hash. So when people ask like, oh, where does Bitcoin live? What is Bitcoin? How is it? Bitcoin is just a fucking number, but it's a number that is expressed as from all of these blocks, and it's tracked on all of the blocks. So the total number of Bitcoin were created from these blocks, and it's the blocks themselves are what contain anyway, yeah, it's fucking crazy how blockchain works. It's a crazy technology, but yeah, this is the idea of it, is that you have a root hash that contains all of the hash values of just all the transactions. So you get a transaction and then you hash it, and then you create another hash, and then you just keep hashing that in like a Merkle tree, I guess, until you get like one root hash. And yeah. See, the interior hashes do not need to be stored. So that's the whole idea, is to reclaim disk space. So it's just to make it smaller, to reduce space. Because if you're storing all of this data, that's a lot. But when you're just storing like this data, that's not that much. Or if you were to just store like this instead of this, like even, all of that is really not that much. So a block header with no transactions would be about 80 bytes. If we suppose that blocks are generated every 10 minutes, 4.2 megabytes per year. Just to have nothing. Just for nothing. It generates 4.2 megabytes per year. With computer systems typically selling with 2 gigabytes of RAM, Moore's prediction not be a problem. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm not gonna go through this whole paper. If you want to go read the Bitcoin paper yourself, this is also pretty interesting. It's a good read. Um, and yeah. Anyway, you get the point. Changes to the internet are to come. I don't know what the title of this video is, but you read it. You clicked on the video. You watched it. You watched all 3 hours of this of me just rambling about this paper and just be just nerding out on this stuff. It's all public. I mean, if you want to go, read it yourself. It's like I said. I'll put the links in the description. Yeah, I appreciate anyone who decided to listen to me rant about this stuff because I think it's interesting, and I think it's pretty crazy how um, this is going to fundamentally just change how the internet works as a whole. It's going to be a slow progression towards this, but it this will it will change a lot. On the back end, not necessarily the front end, a little bit on the front end, mostly on the back end. But like the interaction on the front end is mostly going to be the same. Like I said, you're still going to have, a website you go to and you log in and you do your stuff and whatever. It's just the back end of it, instead of happening on servers, on centralized servers, it's happening on a decentralized blockchain. That's the basic principle of Web3. So, yeah. Anyway, that's my interpretation of it. Anyway, I'm probably wrong in a lot of my assumptions about some things. Um, yeah, I'm definitely wrong in some assumptions, but I don't think I'm too far off on some things as well. I think I'm trying to like read this and like look at this objectively of like, okay, how could this actually look in the future? But I don't know. I'm probably wrong about some of my predictions. I just imagine that. Yeah, I mean things will change. Like things will change because of this, though. It's pretty interesting. Yeah. I don't know. That's it. I'm done rambling. Appreciate anyone who watched. That's all for now, at least. Okay. Bye.